Orders of the day.
Orders of the day, Government Orders, Business of Supply, consideration of an opposition motion on a special committee on the economic relationship between Canada and the United States, standing in the name of Mrs. Gray.
Mrs. Gray, seconded by Monsieur Généreux, moves that given the trade between Canada and the United States of America exceeds $1.5 billion per day, more than 300,000 people normally cross the common border monthly. The two countries have enjoyed one of the world's largest open trading blocs for the free movement of goods, services, and people since 1989. The economic challenges caused by COVID-19 and the need for a serious plan for the economic recovery that recognizes the integration of North American economy. Kelowna Lake Country.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am proud today to speak on our official Opposition Day Conservative motion to create a special committee worthy of our focus, which is the economic relationship between Canada and the United States. It is long past the time where this government started being proactive rather than reactive when it comes to our relationship with the United States. The motion before the House today will allow us to do exactly that. Trade between Canada and the U.S. exceeds $1.5 billion per day. Our partnership with the United States is of critical importance. Our two countries share more than just a border. We share common ideals, and many Canadians and Americans work and live across the borders and have family or friends who reside on the other side of the border, and their lives are integrated. Our business relationships provide countless jobs across the country with our two-way trade. Since the ratification of NAFTA in 1994, and more recently with CUSMA, our two nations have enjoyed the benefits of the free movement of goods, services, and people, a strong relationship that has gotten only stronger over time. However, like every relationship, it takes effort and work. I know many of my colleagues today will speak on a wide range of challenges that affect different sectors across our country, some old, some new, that highlight the need for this committee. We've had Keystone XL cancelled and other pipeline issues, such as Line 5, which may lead to immediate fuel shortages in Ontario and Quebec, higher fuel prices, and losses of thousands of jobs. Tariff issues and disputes on softwood lumber, dairy, and aluminum, low-priced Washington apples being dumped into Canada, and stricter Buy American policies and investigations on several of our fruit and vegetable exports to the U.S. We need strategic focus. Most of us on this side of the House come from the private sector. We've been entrepreneurs. We've founded and operated companies. We've been in senior leadership roles. We've been involved in strategic planning and risk management, and we have been responsible for people's livelihoods. We've forgone paychecks ourselves to make sure our workers, who often become friends, get paid. We take very seriously people being able to keep their jobs and support their families. Leadership is acknowledging when there are areas that need focus. It is common practice and good governance to put extra effort on important topics. Striking this committee would be comparable in the business environment to an ad hoc committee which has specific goals or focus and exists for a set amount of time. At the International Trade Committee, we already have several studies queued up. We're quite behind due to sitting only once between April and September 2020, partially due to the prorogation of Parliament. Other committees are in a similar position. This Canada-U.S. committee would allow the freedom to focus on the important relationship with our largest economic partner. And Madam Speaker, I'll be splitting my time with the member from Montgomery, Lille, Kamoruska, Rivière-du-Loup. This Canada-U.S. committee would allow the freedom to focus on the important relationship with this partner. And there is a U.S. administration that we've already seen some new policies that are affecting businesses and workers in Canada, that are affecting everyday lives in important sectors. Our economies and supply chains are integrated. And what does that really mean? You may have the raw materials in one country, let's say, from the U.S., which are shipped to the other country, in Canada, where a product is made at a Canadian business and then sent back to the U.S., and perhaps turned into another item. And this is the integration of our supply chains. And this happens every day across our border in multiple industries, likely in almost every riding of every member of this House. The Prime Minister's response to important Canada-US economic issues has been concern or disappointment. And Canadian businesses and workers deserve hope and plans. Concern and disappointment is not enough, and that is not a strategy nor a plan. Madam Speaker, one emerging issue is the new Buy American executive order signed by President Biden, which has stronger language than we've seen before. This executive order creates a new Made in America office with the President's office and will substantially reduce the ability for Canadian businesses to participate in U.S. government procurement contracts. We've already heard from business groups who are concerned, and there's a lot of uncertainty. A small manufacturing business in my riding explained to me how they sell through a distributor in the U.S. who sells to a department of the U.S. federal government. And they're unclear if this new Buy America policy will outright stop them being able to have these sales. In 2019, Canadian companies had nearly $700 million worth of government contracts in the United States. I spoke with an industry association the other day who thought this might actually be higher due to the integration of our supply chains. When Buy America provisions were announced by the then Obama administration a decade ago, the previous Conservative government got to work, showing those on both sides of the border the importance of the integrated North American supply chain and how promoting and ensuring our mutual economic benefit recoveries were important during the financial crisis of that time. The then Conservative government negotiated an agreement which allowed Canadian companies to be exempt from Buy America and continue participating in U.S. government procurement. We need our current government to work immediately to do the same, to ensure stability for our local manufacturing businesses and workers who depend on this cross-border supply chain. We are in a vulnerable position because the Buy America policy issued is addressed in Chapter 13 of CUSMA. However, Canada did not negotiate this, and it only applies to the U.S. and Mexico. The establishment of a special committee on Canada-U.S. economic relations will allow members of Parliament to do a comprehensive dive on the Biden administration's Buy America rules. This motion before us specifically addresses instructing the committee to present an interim report on this matter. Another emerging issue in the past, myself and 31 of my colleagues in the official opposition sent a letter to the Minister of International Trade and Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food urging immediate government attention. Last September, the United States International Trade Commission began an investigation on U.S. blueberry imports. Additional investigations began on strawberries and bell peppers. Canada was the fourth largest producer of total U.S. blueberry imports in 2019, and according to the BC Blueberry Council, the largest supplier of frozen blueberries. These numbers represent $750 million of our exports to the U.S., supporting 8,300 farming families and thousands of direct and indirect jobs. Our hardworking farmers play an integral role in the economy, and we urge the government for immediate action on this. Apple orchardists in my riding are selling below cost due to large quantities of low-priced apples coming in from the U.S., and many are near bankruptcy. The creation of this special committee will allow us to get ahead of issues. Madam Speaker, we also can't forget that our forestry workers are still looking for stability and a resolution to the current softwood lumber dispute. The previous Conservative government successfully negotiated a softwood lumber agreement with the U.S. government, providing this much-needed certainty. Unfortunately, the current government has yet to reach a similar agreement. While I welcome reduced duties on Canadian softwood lumber exports that were announced last November, this would not have been an issue if we would have been able to negotiate a new softwood lumber agreement with the United States. I recall when we were debating Bill C-4, the CUSMA implementation bill, around the same time last year, Conservatives raised the issue of softwood lumber disputing with not being addressed by the government during that time. This was a missed opportunity, including over 6,000 jobs lost in the second quarter of 2020 alone. And I remember in my maiden speech of this House in 2019, I raised the issue of the only lumber mill in my riding of Kelowna Lake Country, the Kelowna division of Tolko, announcing its decision to close at the beginning of 2020, creating hardship for all those families. This has been a trend in our resource sectors. It's important that we stand up for our responsible resource sectors, a backbone of our economy. We need to get the government to succeed in removing countervailing measures on softwood lumber exports and stand up for Canadian resources, agriculture, and manufacturing sectors. And I know my colleagues in this House across all party lines will talk on a number of important issues, and will move this conversation forward. We're talking about food security and energy security and mutual economic recovery. With the establishment of this committee, we can strengthen our resolve when acting on the best interests of Canadians. We must start planning to rebuild and reopen our economy and get Canadians back to work. We're focused on securing jobs, securing our economy, and securing our future. I encourage all members of this House to vote in favour of this motion so we can get to work.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Kingston and the Islands.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for bringing forward her motion today to discuss what is indeed an extremely important topic. $2 billion worth of trade happens on a daily basis between our country and the United States, and indeed we do not have and have not had the benefit of such an important trading relationship with any other country in the world. You know, I would add that in the previous session, this government negotiated very successfully the new version of NAFTA, despite the fact that the Conservative leader at the time was asking the government to capitulate at almost every turn. Having said that, I think that this is a great opportunity to get parliamentarians involved in the process, and I, for one, hope that this committee can get formed so that we can get to work on behalf of Canadians.
The honourable member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and it's really good to hear those words. This is a very important issue to Canadians all across the country. As I mentioned in my speech, in every riding across the country, we have so many industries that consider our relationship with the United States very important, and so it's great to hear that we have other members of this House that consider it important as well. Thank you.
Dans un commentaire, l'honorable député.